to chill out just for a moment while I let a couple people join in. I've got a subject I want to talk about tonight. It's going to be essentially about Jacob and Esau. Um, so we'll be going through Genesis, and I think we'll go through Genesis. Start in Genesis 25 at the um, basically the birth of Jacob and Esau, who are twins, and um, twins are an interesting subject, especially in Scripture. Some people think that Cain and Abel were twins. Um, I'm not sure that it quite reads that way. Obviously, it's possible, but let's see here. So anyway, if you're in yeah, if you're in the chat room, just give me a shout. Let me know you're there, and we'll get started here in just a moment. Dred, good to see you. It is going well. How are you doing? Um, we are going to be talking about Jacob and Esau out of the Bible and some type and shadows that they uh, represent. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Love books, and I don't get nearly enough time to read. uh, kind of like a guy who collects fishing gear and he never has time to go fishing. I do read as much as I can, though. Hello, country. Good to have you. Um, but they're there whenever I do have time, and I am kind of a slow reader, so my list of books that I've got to read, not that I have to read, um, but I've got kind of a large couple large stacks on the desk there that are I need to get to at some point. Um, oops. And then I just built, yeah, it's decently presentable. I just built that shelf, and I've actually read quite a few on that shelf. Um, but good to have you guys. I am going to talk about Jacob and Esau, and this is a really interesting subject. Even if you're not a Christian or if you're not a believer, I, I don't know that people understand how interesting the Bible is. Obviously, coming from a Christian perspective, believing that it's historically accurate, um, believing in God and all of this, I have a great value for Scripture, but also um, I see how people that don't believe yet should value it as a great work, especially if you like Tolkien, for example. um, the works of Tolkien, because he borrows so much structure from scripture, especially if you're reading through like the Silmarillion, his creation of the universe, his version of essentially what's God, the angels, and different things. So, um, and there's, it's he took in a whole bunch of history and myths and different things into consideration for that, and it's amazing work. But again, it kind of pales in comparison to Scripture. The poetry that's in the Bible, it's just beautiful, especially if you're reading through the end of Job, reading through Psalms. Um, and so it's very interesting, something that I think anybody would appreciate. um, it's just typically when people read the Bible, they're not reading um, for enjoyment. I don't, at least in my experience, talking to people, they're either reading to find out if it's true, or they're reading to try to prove that it's not. And so there's usually, well, sometimes there's an agenda there. But I want to go to Genesis chapter 25. And this is something important to understand anyway, um, because and yeah, Dread, absolutely, because there's actually a lot of studies done about people who read the Bible, who spend a lot of time reading the Bible. Their depression levels um, drop significantly. They are a lot more stable people as far as um, you know working steady jobs. Their income uh, generally goes up over time. Men who become Christians, their income, their disposable income goes up, obviously because they're dropping a lot of bad habits. But the Scripture is a big part of that. Um, and so, in our culture, it's important, especially understanding world culture, because you have three Abrahamic religions: um, Christians, Jews, and Muslims. And so these are all three what are called Abrahamic religions. And so they all claim to um, or do come from Abraham. Uh, they all do come from Abraham. It's just how they came from Abraham is the question. So for Jews, um, they descend from Isaac. Arabs and therefore Muslims will um, claim their religious heritage through Esau. I'm sorry, not Esau, um, Ishmael. So the Arabs get their heritage from Ishmael, and that's true as well. And then, of course, Christians, being a mixture of Arabs and Jews and every ethnicity, they we see Abraham as a spiritual father, not a physical father, not a genetic forefather. And so we see the life of Abraham, that he's a faithful person, that he obeyed God. And so we're his children spiritually because we do the deeds of, of Abraham. In fact, um, Jesus says to the Pharisees, um, because they had gotten to such a place of religious uh, I'm trying to think of the right word. They're just really arrogant, arrogant individuals, full of hatred. They did not respect people. They believe themselves more highly than the common person. And so the Pharisees, um, they trusted in the fact that Abraham was their genetic progenitor. And so, as their genetic progenitor, and since Abraham is the one that God established a covenant with, they trusted in their genetics to keep them in a covenant with God, not in their being good or righteous or obedient or trusting in the mercy of God. Hello, Yvonne. Very, very good to have you. Um, And so they're trusting in their genetics, but Jesus says to them, um, and these are genetic children of Abraham, but he says to them, "You are of your father, the devil." And um, he said, "Because you do the deeds of your father, which is lie, steal, kill, and destroy." Um, and steal, kill, and destroy is what the enemy has come to do. So that's Satan, and he's come to steal, to kill, to destroy. So wherever you see a lot of death, um, uh, you see a lot of theft, destruction. Generally, there's some work of Satan there, whether it's offensively, defensively. I wouldn't say defensively, but there's some work of the enemy there, and so that's what the enemy's come to do. And Jesus said, "Your deeds are of your father, the devil. You're of your father, the devil." And he said, "You basically you say your children." Hey, Dred, thanks for coming in. Sub, if you're not yet, um, I think your name looks familiar, but I don't remember if you've been in again or been in before. So, Sub, if you will, would love to have you back. Thanks for coming. Um, so he says basically, if you do the deeds of Abraham, then you would be Abraham's children. But because you do the deeds of Satan, you're of your father, the devil. And um, and then so that puts us as spiritual children, as Christians, spiritual children of Abraham, grafted in to the tree, as Paul put it. So some branches were cut off. The natural branch, which would be the Jews, Paul said, were cut off, but then we were grafted in. And a graft is simply when you cut one branch off, you take another branch from a different tree, and you basically notch them together and bind them together until they grow, and so you have a totally different type of tree growing out of another type of tree. Vicus, good to have you. Nice to see you, brother Vicus. I forgot what country you're from. If you would let me know. And I think I think you're a pastor, if I remember correct. But yeah, just let me know. India, okay, wonderful. And you are a pastor, correct? Um, Thank you, Dred. Appreciate it. Um, yeah, come on back in whenever you get a chance. Awesome, brother Vicus. So good to have you joining us from India. We're talking about Jacob or fixing to talk about Jacob and Esau, but I was covering some bases with Abraham and the context of the world we live in, because uh, most of the world is either Christian, Muslim, or Jewish. Obviously, the Jews are a smaller population. Muslims make up 25% of the world right now, and Christians make up, well, I'm not sure how much they make up, but a lot. And so between Christians, Muslims, and Jews, you have a majority of the world. Um, and so um, it's important to understand where these things come from, and what what these ideas stem from, and are about. Now, I always throw out um, some teaching on the Quran, because I want people to understand that I hold the scripture in very high esteem. That the scripture is something that you can trust. It's accurate. The Old Testament was done with extreme accuracy. Um, the New Testament, we trust it, not so much for its accuracy, but for so many. I mean, there's thousands upon thousands of documents that verify the New Testament. And of course, the historical accuracy is spot on. Maybe sometime we'll do a video, but there have been many things that the scriptures stated, and uh, historians and uh, different oh, what am I trying to think? Not geologist. Is it maybe paleontologist? Anyway, these people are saying, "Oh, this is not even accurate according to history. There's no place that exists like this." And then, mid 1800s, 1900s, they're digging up those things for the first time and seeing that the Bible was accurate, that those things did exist, and the Bible was the only, and many times has been the only record of some of those ancient things until we dug them up. And so, if they would actually um, give credit where credit is due, they would hold Scripture as the most historically accurate uh, record of history that there is. And so, given that, I usually bring up the fact that Islam, um, 2.6 billion Christians. Thank you, Vaughn. Um, and so, if there's, let's see, there's what is there, roughly 8 billion people, and a quarter of them, which would be 2 billion Muslims, and 2.6 billion Christians. I'm not sure how many Jews, but yeah, that's slightly over half the world, at least, is Christian, um, Jewish, or Muslim. And but with Islam, um, the Quran in several places uh, admits that the books of Moses and the